Yes, yes, yes. The BLON BLA8 Prometheus is a wreck. I wrecked this set. This is the best as far as retrieving micro details BLON that they've ever released. So they're using a different driver. It's obvious to the ear that they're using a different driver because this has more mid bass and sub bass than the 03, but this is retrieving micro details, slides, finger slides on fretboards, taps. It's doing it better than any BLON that they've released previous to this. I can kind of get why this isn't called the O or the 08, like the 01, the 03, the 05. They're switching out because I think they're trying to add another branch to their tree. This is the best technical set. By tuning and graph, I wouldn't think so, but by ear, it actually is. Let me go ahead and give you a quick look. This is my Twitter. If you go to my YouTube channel and you go to the up into the header, you got Instagram, Patreon, Facebook, and if you go ahead and click Twitter, you'll get yourself here and you'll see unboxings, which I'll try to keep on Twitter. So if you want to get a closer look at stuff, you can go ahead and do that by checking Twitter. So I won't, some people don't want to see unboxings on YouTube. I get it. So moving along. And let's get to the graph. This is the A8. This is what we're looking at right here. The most similar set to this would be what some people liked as far as its ability technically and also particularly to scale up, which would be the 01. So I'm going to go ahead and slap that up there because it looks in the sub bass, the mid bass, the mids, the mid to upper mid is a little less forward, but on the amplitude's quite similar. This is like the 01, forget about the poor fit of that. In its playback, but it's technically, it's got a little bit more bite and it sounds like it's getting more micro details than the 01, where the 01 could sound a little bit smooth, but that was its clean but smooth. This is a technically superior set to the 01, which I thought was technically superior to the 03. Also, if we take the Mini, which I think the Mini should be classified as an A, like advanced skunk works of whatever BLON's doing, because the Mini was a radical design, like a Eddie Modic, but it doesn't slide deep into your ear because it's got that little curve, and it had a little anomalous spike considering that it's a BLON, and it was mentioned in my video as something that might crop up with some people's libraries, and it in fact did, but some people, they either pulled it down a little bit or they don't listen to the volume where that really becomes an issue, or it could be library related, but it was definitely something worth noting. The other two sets right here, the A8 and the A01, don't actually exhibit this. This is closer to an 01. Let me go ahead and take that down, talk about some music. This is Wild Horses by. This sounds dope. I gotta explain to you. I thought, first, let's go for something kind of like a res check. U2 War on a track called Seconds. It takes a second to say goodbye. There's a little interlude and it's 118. There's like a dubbed voice and you can hear him talk about, they're talking about nuclear weapons and pushing buttons. At 2 minute 2 seconds to 2 minute 12 seconds of this track, if you got this album, there is a man talking in the background dubbed behind the track, and then in the scene of the guy, he's talking with a movie on a TV called Soldier Girls in the background. So it's like 3 layers going on. You got the track, then they put a guy talking in the background. It's a total separate event. It's another layer that's put in, and then behind him is a television playing Soldier Girls. So you get an audio from a TV behind a guy who's behind a track. And being able to discern that and catch that in good quality and exactly what they're talking about is directly related to the performance of the driver. Something that's kind of slow and woolly, it's not going to play this well, even though it exists mostly beyond that. When you've got hazes or veils related to mid-bass elevation, it's going to kind of take away a lot of stuff like these little audio Easter eggs. This came through loud and clear. And it's not because there's pushed up treble, because it's not. It's basically the same as the Mini, as the 01 without that little notch right there. So that sounded dope. Guitars on Van Halen, the title album right here, dope. Sounded really, really nice. Where I thought that this might have an issue, the best thing that this played was Sultans of Swing. And the reason that I bring that up is because I talk about the bassist and Mark and how they kind of battle for space sometimes. And if the mid bass is elevated too much, it makes the bassist and Mark sound like they're kind of really, really close together. And I'm not really going for that. I'm going for the bassist to sound like he's pinning the track down, and Mark's great vocals and guitar to come through nice and clear. And it does on Sultans of Swing. Sultan of Swing sounded dope. I wrote that down. The vocal was perfect. Mark's vocals are getting elevated by the mid bass, but because of the performance of the driver, it doesn't sound like that, and it actually sounds appealing. And him and the bassist are not merging. Two low frequency events going on at the same time, like a drummer and a bassist on Sweetleaf, where they're crowding each other out. It's actually not happening with Sultans of Swing. It actually sounds good. While I'm looking at that tip, I think you got a tip roll, because I don't think the tips that are included are going to quite cut it. Now, one of the biggest tracks for me is Black Sabbath Sweetleaf off of Masters of Reality, because again, at 2:30 to 2:36 roughly, you've got the fast pulls and releases. That's one issue, because a lot of times the pulls you can catch clearly, but the releases, because of the speed of the driver or the perceived speed of the driver, it kind of blurs out. So you're clearly hearing the pulls, but you're not really catching the releases, like the top to the bottom. That happens a lot, actually. On this, even though it's got elevated mid bass over what is not really mids before it starts to take the gain, I heard this clearly. And then I realized that I'm also listening for the drums, because they're going on over the bass, or the bass is going on over the drums, and I hadn't even realized to listen to both of them, because I thought, listen for those pulls and releases. Is that a problem? And I thought, oh, that sounds dope. Oh, and that drummer sounds dope too. So two low frequency instruments going on at the same time causes chaos for a lot of stuff. The performance of this is better on this set than on the 03. Just on that set. The overall tonality and the timbre of the 03 is still the benchmark for the BLON. They caught lightning in a bottle, but the accuracy of the perceived instrument, the bass guitar, sounds better on this set than it does that. It's obvious that they're using a superior driver right here. And then I had the drummer. Usually the drummer gets in the way from the first second I start to focus on this, because they're right in the same section frequency-wise at the same time, and they're really going at it. Really, really, really smashing the skins, and he's really, really pulling on the strings and releasing them very, very fast. It's brilliant. It's about 50 years old. It stands up. It's a classic rock and roll moment. Love it. And this was critical. The cymbal strikes on Can't Find My Way Home, I was actually writing about this right here. Noticing the hi-hat opening and closing while I'm waiting for the cymbals that's going on between the two significant strikes of 27 and 38. I thought it sounded fantastic. It was outshone by Steve Winwood's vocals. Vocals sounded dope on this. Really, really good. And also the guitar by Eric Clapton just sounded dope. I'm a big fan of this set, actually. I like it. It is what it is. It's going for the BLON's new branch. They're probably going to release a couple things that are similar to this and then go in another direction. That they've made this awesome cable, and they've made this very unique set that doesn't poke into my ears in any weird way. The only effort that you're going to have to go to is to put the right tips on, but that's with sets that cost $10,000 to $5,000. So we're covering the whole rainbow right there. It's not related to price. I think the performance of the set is quite good. The only surprise that I had was on Big Boy Kill Jill, and that is because it's a triple hit, and because this has got that elevated bass, I thought that's going to hammer. It didn't. It just did it. And then I thought the 01 did that same thing. Like, it didn't slam like I thought it would, because it puts out more bass on a graph than the 03. It didn't. This has obviously got a superior driver, and the 03 is a unique combination of a driver, a shell, tuning, and a company just nailing the sweet spot. And then the 05S, in my opinion, were attempts to polish what was already a nice diamond, and now they're going in another direction where they're taking a different driver. It's obvious to my ears, and getting creative. And I'm happy for that, because the audience will decide what the winners and losers are, and then the company will either keep their creativity and just offer other things. Some companies really stick to certain targets for the better or for the worse. For the better is because they know that that's going to be profitable to a certain extent, and to the worse because people that don't follow that are going to, again, look at something and think, okay, that's really not my thing because the other one wasn't. Graphs don't tell the whole story, but they do give you a lot. In this case, they're not quite telling the whole story, because the detail retrieval on this set is exceptional. especially considering the tuning. It's a V set pretty much, and I'm getting great bass replay. The drums sound fantastic. Mark Knopfler sounds great. Guitars sound great. Jerry Garcia, you're talking about ripple as a joke because it sounds good on pretty much everything, but that was notable. I thought it sounded awesome. Only stick out thing was the huge bass hit in hip hop by Big Boy. It wasn't as authoritative as I was expecting it to be. I don't know why, but then I think the 01 didn't actually slam that either quite as much as the 03, though the amplitude on the frequency graph would indicate that would be a different experience. It's not the case. This is more in control than the low end, though it's tuned higher. Great set. I recommend it. It's going to definitely be for people's taste for about $90, considering the quality of the design, the uniqueness, the cable, the comfort, and wearing it, assuming you get the tips. And if you want to collect the BLON stuff, I think this is something you won't have and just look at it. I think you'll listen to it because it actually sounds quite good. Roll your tips. And I'm out. I'll do another comparison video down the road, but it won't be probably quick. I'm going to spend some time and have my final thoughts on this. My first impressions are that this is obviously a different driver. It's got technical superiority over the 01, the 03, and the 0, or the O or the 0 series. This is superior to that. Bravo to them. The cable is dope. I just can't get over the whole, look at that case, and then consider the, I miss the opity, honestly, and then look at the cable and consider what you used to get, that ghetto thing that used to push the driver, literally push that already not fitting thing out of your ear. The 03 changed my ear shape or something because it fits great now. But at the beginning I thought this thing is a chore, plus the cable's fighting me to get a good fit, and now they're going the total other way. So they've taken their profits and invested in themselves. Invest for success. I support that all the time. Keep going. I'm still a BLON fanboy big time. I recommend you guys grab the BL-A8 and take your pictures of it and enjoy it. It's dope. Very nice. Good job. Bravo to BLON. Coming from Queens. Coming.